feel like a Baptist minister. I've never been at a podium before, especially sitting down. It's no doubt a great honor to be here with the other outstanding Texas exes, and they told me I only had a few minutes to talk. So I'll say this to you. Number one, I don't talk that fast. I mean, I don't know. I don't write a speech down. I guess, no doubt that's what I learned at the speech department at the university here. But I would like to say to my boys, thank you. You boys did a great job talking about Dad. And a lot of people see me and the boys out there all the time, but I am married. My wife, Renee, would you stand up, Renee? I will say this, when I was in high school in 1973, 74 was my senior year, and it was this guy I had seen coming by my high school, and my high school coach was named Corky Nelson. And there was this guy, and one day Coach Nelson said, "Hey, Earl, come here." I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "I want you to meet Coach Ken Dabbs from the University of Texas." And I was a junior then, and I said, "Oh, nice to meet you, Coach." He said, "Yeah, nice to meet you." Coach Nelson said, "If you be good enough, maybe one day you go to the university." I said, "Oh, really?" Which was the other side of the world to me, living out in Tyler, Texas, in the country, you know. And we played the state championship game in Houston against Austin Reagan. I didn't understand that was right here either. So one of the things I'll never forget as long as I live is Coach Dabbs. He would always come to our house, and you know, as my boys said, 7 boys and 4 girls, and my mother. My sister Evelyn, who used to always fix plates for everybody, used to say, "Coach Dabb, you want some greens, you want some peas, you want some red beans, you want this, you want that." Coach Dabb never turned down, "Oh, yes." And I said, I was sitting there as a young man saying, that guy doesn't know nothing about that kind of food. But he ate it just the same. I mean, whether he was trying to be very cool or very nice or, you know, putting his name in the hat, he won, as it turned out. But when I was playing the state championship game right after the game was over, it was these 2 guys came in our dressing room, and both of them had on what we soul brothers called an apple hat. Nowadays, they call them kangaroo hats. And one had on a leather jacket. And I really noticed him because I didn't have a leather jacket. And his name was Joe Jamel, that turned out, you know. While Coach Royer was trying to introduce himself and talk and say something, and Joe was saying, "Oh, what a hell of a body." He didn't exactly use those words. If you know Joe, it was just a little bit deeper than that. And I was saying to myself, what's wrong with this man? Is he kind of, you know, that kind of crossed my mind, and that's when that was my very first introduction to coming to the university, and Coach Royer introduced himself, and I'd heard the stories about him. The more I decided that I was leaning towards coming to school here. But just real quickly, it changed my life. I remember when Roosevelt Leaks would go play for Baltimore Colts, and I would see him in the dressing room and stuff, you know, and he would talk about UT, or Bill Bradley would come back from Philadelphia Eagles, and so forth and so on. And there was a guy named Wally Scott who was the second best football player from Tyler, Texas. That's what he says. And I used to always notice the way they talked about the university being an excess, you know, and I never dreamed that would hit me until I got into pro football, and then the guys with the Oilers and they start talking to me more about Coach Roy, or more about the university, and more about what I went through. And I said, I had no problem. Everybody was cool with me. I just was Earl. They did what they had to do. I did what I had to do. And it was a great experience coming here. I made so many friends. I want one thing to be very clear, that I made an effort to be a friend first. And if you make an effort to be wanted, then somebody will want you. That's the way my mother raised me. And I could not sit here and say, and not mention Coach Fred Akers, which is one of the reasons I wear white shirts now when I do wear a suit, because Fred Akers and Muhammad Ali was two of the best dressed people I ever known. And I always wanted to be like Coach Akers, neat, dressed, grooming, because Coach Akers always had everything like perfect. You think Jimmy Johnson had his hair perfect, Coach Akers did. But ladies and gentlemen, I want y'all to know, as an ex-student going to your university and now getting into a new fraternity, not only in the past have I did everything I could in my power to let everyone know that I not only went to this university, I got a bachelor's degree from here in speech communication, and then I did that in 1978 after my rookie year, which was something very hard to do for football players back then. So I thank you all very much. The University of Texas, I know you hear this all the time, but everything I've owned and experienced in my life, I owe to three people: the good Lord, my mother, and this great university, and to you. Thank you very much.